morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. We're continuing our discussion today in End Days Survival Guide. Matthew chapter 10 says, "But when they deliver you up, do not worry about how and what you should speak, for it will be given to you in that hour what you should speak. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father. The Holy Spirit will give you what to say." And I know some people are hesitant about witnessing to people or talking about the Lord. I don't want to get it wrong. It's not about getting it wrong. If you don't say anything, you never get it right. Acts chapter 14, it says, Acts chapter 4 says, "Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, this perceived they were uneducated and untrained, they marveled, and they realized that they had been with Jesus, that the Spirit of the Lord was heavy upon them." In 2 Timothy, Paul says this, "Be diligent to present yourself approved to God, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." So in other words, study to show thyself approved so that you know what you're saying. But the end of all things is at hand. 1 Peter, "Therefore be serious and watchful in your prayers. And above all things, have fervent love for one another, for love will cover a multitude of sins." And it's like, well, sometimes we just have to speak. It's not that we, are worried about getting it wrong. It's that we need to trust the Holy Spirit to say the right stuff and to make sure that they hear the right stuff. And the Holy Spirit, I have spoken to people and spoken in services, and they've come to me and they'll say, "Pastor, you said this, thus and so, and it changed my life." I never said that. That's because that's what they heard, because that's what the Holy Spirit knew that they needed to hear, was something that I actually didn't say. Ephesians 5 says, "Be filled with the Spirit. Do not be drunk with wine. Do not be filled with the world, which is dissipation, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord, giving thanks always." Where there's the key, giving thanks always. In Luke chapter 5, I love this. He said, "So he himself," this is Jesus, "often withdrew into the wilderness and prayed." Now you remember that the disciples only asked Jesus for two things. One thing they asked was, "Teach us how to pray." The other was, "Help increase our faith." Because they saw in both cases, when Jesus would come out of the wilderness full of prayer and full of contact with the Father, he did miracles. So they said, we see what happens when you go up into the mountain. Teach us how to do that so that we can work those miracles with you. And it's often said that the Apostle James's knees were like the knees of a camel, because he was on the floor so much, praying and kneeling before the Lord. So God bless you, and we'll see you again next time.